especially if you're new to medium tanks. But if you have experience with medium tanks, and you're an experienced player, then you're definitely going to enjoy the Japanese medium line. The entire line is filled with great tanks. Not a lot of armor, but really good guns. I really enjoyed it, and I recommend it highly. Here I'm going to do a review style video on the STB-1. So far down the line, I've been just showing gameplay and then doing some commentary sometimes to show you where I like to go on maps and how I like to play the game, some of my play style and my techniques. But here I'm going to do a little bit of a review first, just because I also like to go to the internet and get information on my tanks, especially before I get them. I like to watch tank reviews, so I'm hoping that you like to do the same. One of the reasons I like to watch the tank reviews is because I like to get advice on equipment loadout, consumables, crew training skills, and then play styles as well, to emphasize the strengths and hide the weaknesses of the tank. Each tank is different in that respect, so I really like to get someone else's feeling on how to run the tank, especially someone who has experience with the tank. I have over 300 battles in this tank, so I've definitely gotten a good feel for it. So we're just gonna jump in here. I'm gonna start talking about the strengths and weaknesses of the tank and how to play it, and then that'll make more sense as to my equipment loadout, my consumables, and my skills. So right away, we're gonna talk about the strength of the tank. I just want to get this out there first. This tank, the STB-1, has the highest DPM for any tier 10 medium in the game. So for this 105mm gun to shoot 7.5 rounds a minute, that is the best for that amount of damage. So over the course of 1 minute, you are going to do more damage than any other medium at tier 10, which is a very important stat. So being number 1 in that stat is a huge bonus for this tank, and it is by far its biggest strength. With that being said, there's some balancing features here. If the gun was that amazing, then it would be, totally OP tank, and the game is a balanced game. So the balancing feature would be the fact that the accuracy is 0.36, the aim time is 2.3. Aim time is pretty much standard. That with the dispersion values, I can tell you right now, you're not going to want to snapshot a lot with this tank. You're not going to want to be running on the move and auto lock and fire. I'm not saying it won't hit occasionally, but I would only, if you really need to get a pen, you'd have to aim in the using the scope. You're not going to want to do this auto locking. Just the accuracy and the aim time just isn't there for that kind of thing. It's not a Russian medium. It's not going to fly by and snap off a bunch of shots that hit. This is a little bit more of a snipery type of gun, even though it doesn't have the long range distance or accuracy of a sniper. It needs to be aimed in order to fire correctly. 2.58 penetration on your standard rounds. Just want to say that's a little bit on the low side. Most of the tier 10 mediums are in the high 260s, and 267, maybe even 270 for like the E50M. So 258 is a little bit on the low side. It's an APCR round, which is great because the shell velocity is high. So moving targets, you don't have to lead them as much, which makes it more accurate. So when people like to fire APCR, that's one of the big reasons why the shell velocity makes it seem much more accurate, like a more accurate round, which it is. If the targets are moving, then it's definitely more accurate. But also APCR has less normalization than AP, and it loses penetration over distance. So those two factors have to be taken into account when you put the fact the 258 pen with 0.36 accuracy and 2.3 aim time and the dispersion values that come with the moving turret. I can tell you right now that the gun can be frustrating at sometimes. You're going to get some bounces that you don't expect. You're going to get some misses that you don't expect. It's not a perfect gun by any means. That's one of the balancing features. With that incredible rate of fire, you're not always going to get perfect pens every single time. But just like every gun in the game, you have to deal with it. People have a hard time with the Leopard's gun, which is basically the best gun for a tier 10 medium in the game. And even that one, sometimes when it doesn't do what you want it to do, is pretty frustrating. So the STB-1 can also be frustrating with the gun sometimes. The way to minimize this problem is definitely to be in a medium range scenario. You don't want to be firing over really long distances at the edges of your render range, especially against heavily armored targets. You might as well just save the shell, just because you don't have the accuracy. At 0.36 accuracy, you're lucky to hit a tank at the end of your render range. Just tank proper, let alone hit a weak spot. So unless it's a really soft target, maybe then you could give it a shot from a long distance. But I recommend you try and face targets at a more of a medium range, and that'll minimize some of the gun issues. Real quick, as far as the power to weight ratio goes, the tank is maneuverable enough. It's definitely not the fastest tank. The Leopard and the Centurion Action X are faster for sure. So Object 140, of course. Those tanks, the Batchat certainly. It's definitely not the fastest Tier 10 medium, but it's fast enough to do what you need it to do. It's definitely fast enough. You're not really going to be flanking a lot in this tank. That's not really what it does. So it's fast enough to do what it needs to do. The view range is 410. That's perfect. That's up there with the best mediums in the game, with the exception of the Patton having the 10-meter view range advantage. But that's what that's one of its big selling points. So, but other than that, it's 410, the same as Centurion Action X, same as all the other top mediums as far as view range goes. So you're good with view range, good with mobility. As I said, the gun has an incredible rate of fire, but it can be a little bit troll at times. Another thing to point out about the gun, and I'll go to a different screen to show you this. The gun, we have 10 degrees of gun depression, which is really important. I don't know if it depends if you have a lot of experience with tanks with gun depression or not. A lot of the Russian mediums and heavy tanks don't have that much gun depression, but when you have 10 degrees of gun depression, which is about as much as you can get in the game, it allows you so much more flexibility as to your firing positions, where you're going to go on the map. And this is really important with this tank, because we're going to get into armor here, and there really isn't much. The hull, there's no armor to speak of. I'm not even going to waste any time on that. The only thing on this tank to speak of as far as armor goes is the front turret face. And as I can show you right here, the two most heavily armored parts, one right above the gun, and then the cheeks, and then next would be the mouth around the gun right there. I guess you'd say the gun mantlet. Although this is quite a pennable area on the tank. If you look from the side profile, it's quite flat, and it's not heavily armored. So if they do manage to hit you right around the gun, they could pen rather easily, but then they'd also have to not hit your gun. So maybe they hit your gun and you have to repair your gun, but that's better than taking damage. These cheeks right here, it's not about the millimeters as much as it is the shape of them. If you look, it's kind of a Niam-Num pancake face, and it smooths off to the sides. So anything that's not quite on, if they don't hit you right in the turret proper, right in the mouth basically, they're not going to pen you, because these sides will bounce right off. And then the hardest part of the turret right here is right above the gun. So if they shoot a little bit high, if you're peeking a ridge here, then that's going to be an auto bounce right there, no problem. So let me get a little closer. 10 degrees of gun depression would look a little bit more like this. The cupola is obviously weak, like all cupolas are, but the cupola, if you're using your 10 degrees of gun depression, doesn't even come into play. It's going to be at the back of the turret right there, so that'll be covered by the turret. And then, as I said, here you got your cheeks right here, and anything over the, if they manage to shoot right above the gun. So you should be bouncing shots at 10 degrees of gun depression, peaking a ridge, no problem. One of the things about it isn't exactly the turret armor as much as the turret is small. It's a very small target. If you're using your gun depression especially, and that's all they can see, it's a very flat, small turret. So for them to even hit the turret is actually going to be difficult, unless it's only the most accurate guns. Alright. So now that we've gone over armor, we've gone over the gun, so that's basically the strengths and weaknesses of the tank right there. The gun is the strength, the armor is the weakness. Let's get into how I have the tank set up. Equipment loadout, this for me is pretty standard with mediums. Obviously gun rammer, that's almost every tank in the game. Number one is gun rammer. If you can do vert stab in any tank, you usually want to do that, because it's going to help you a lot with your dispersion values, which will make you, more effective at firing. So these two are just completely standard. I go with coated optics a lot. I run a lot of light tanks, so I really enjoy spotting in the game. I do this more for my teammates than it is for my own benefit. I've had numerous arguments with people about using vents. I completely understand that. If you want to put vents instead of optics, it makes all the sense in the world too. I personally like to have the maximum view range the tank is capable of having. That's me. That's what I like to do. But I've definitely thought several times about putting vents instead, just to get that overall help on the tank. As you'll see here, I run a premium consumable, so that kind of offsets the fact that I don't have vents. So that's kind of one of the ways that I can explain it. Here's my ammo loadout. I don't really like the heat that much on this tank, although sometimes you kind of need to use it, I guess. But it's because of the accuracy. Having bad accuracy and firing heat is a terrible combination that leads to a lot of bounces, in my opinion, especially when you're paying that much silver for the round. I'd rather not fire lots of heat. I prefer the AP round. I mean, there are just some shots that you bounce because you're firing heat, or that will get absorbed by tracks or whatnot. So I kind of stick to more of the AP side. As I said, I run the premium consumable. I'll show you right here why. I watched a video before I got this tank, and it was a Quickie Baby video, where he reviewed the STB-1, and he remarked that the 12% of fire chance on the engine was enough for him to run a premium consumable without a fire extinguisher. He felt like the chances of a fire were significantly less enough that he could get away with that. I would agree. I haven't been running a fire extinguisher, and I've been okay. So it really hasn't been much of an issue. You shouldn't be getting shot in the sides and the back too much if you can help it in this tank, seeing as your enemy should be in front of you and you should be working a ridge. So I guess maybe that's one of the reasons I haven't been lit on fire a whole lot. I've talked to you about the play style, the ridge warrior, the peeking, hiding your tank behind the ridge, and using that 10 degrees of gun depression and bouncing any incoming shells that might come in off your turret. Here are the skills that I've chosen: Mentor, Sixth Sense, Brothers in Arms. I'm not even going to get into that. I shouldn't have to explain that. If you do have a question about that, by all means ask it in the comment section and I will answer that directly. But that's kind of standard. Those are kind of standard skills for most tanks in the game. All right, and then I went to gun skills: Snapshot, Smooth Ride. As I said, the dispersion values on this tank with the gun. I want to have the maximum gun handling capable of this tank because the rate of fire is so awesome. You want to be able to get pens regularly and get that high damage count. I also went into camouflage with situational awareness through my spotting. I'm at 59% on recon, so I'm almost set up with my camo and maximum view range. I'm only about 41% away from maximum view range on this tank. I mean, the maximum for coated optics. I did off-road driving. The tank is a little bit sluggish. The ground resistances aren't the best, so that helps mitigate that problem. I do like to have a really fast and maneuverable medium tank, and I thought that was a priority for me. I put repairs in there to make this a little bit more of a well-balanced tank. Most of my skills are all suited towards offense and being the greatest damage dealer I can be. But you know, getting tracked in a tank that doesn't have repairs and no repair kit is really, really painful. So I did throw repairs on there just to make it a little bit more well-rounded. I think next I'll probably be looking at Deadeye. I like Deadeye a lot on tanks if I can get it. And I'll also be looking at other camo skills like silent driving. Definitely muffled shot would be nice. Or green thumb. Those will be future skills that are important to me. And then I got to do some defensive skills. Might want to get track mechanic to go with repairs to get that really quick track repair time. Or I could definitely go with ammo rack, or was it what's that skill? Safe stowage. Safe stowage. Safe stowage would be nice. I don't think this tank takes like a significant amount of component damage. I don't think it's like a scary amount. It seems to do okay by me. You know, you obviously don't want to be hit a lot, but if you do get hit, it doesn't. I mean, it gets ammo racked. It does, you know, have that problem. Crew members die, stuff like that. But it doesn't seem significantly worse than any other tank. It's not nearly as bad as a Leopard, and I think it has a little bit of advantage in that department over the Centurion Action X. It's just not. It's not an instant ammo rack every time you get hit. But yeah, that's what I have on the tank. Those are my loadouts, and now I'm going to show you some gameplay and go over some of the play styles that I like to use with this tank. But that's the STB-1, and thanks for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, here we are on our first video clip with gameplay. STB-1 on Steps, Sandstorm. If you saw my section about crew skills and equipment, I really go for maximum view range on the tank. And this is one of the reasons why. I find like 20% of the maps we're playing these days are these vision obscured maps, which are only on console. And it's paramount to have the most view range possible, especially going with some camo values. That combined on these vision obscured maps is a huge edge, because anyone who's played these maps can tell you that, you know, if you can see somebody, the other tanks that don't have very good view range are going to really rely on your spots. You're going to get a ton of assisted damage. Not to mention with your camo value, there's a couple times in these maps where you can basically be shooting targets who unlit that you should never be able to shoot, and you can shoot them repeatedly and never be spotted. So you want to get that opportunity if you can on these maps. The 9-0 line where I'm at on this map is really popular. I've made the mistake of going too far and overextending to start the map. I'm showing you the beginning of this game even though it's quite slow for a reason, and it's about map awareness here. If you look at where my team is distributed their assets, basically we got half the team going 1-2 line. Me and two other heavy tanks are sitting here on the 9-0 line, which is not good. And then the rest of the team is kind of sitting back at the base, taking a defensive posture. So I'm not going to overextend here. I'm using my gun depression. I'm working this little hill. I'm pretty well covered. I have more view range and camo than most of the tanks I'm going to encounter here. So I'm just trying to spot and see who's where before I jump in. Because once I go past this hill, there's not a lot of cover. There's a big section between the next set of hills. And I found with Centurion Action X and with the STB-1 where you're a pretty vulnerable take with the exception of some turret armor that's only really useful when you're using your gun depression at a hill, when you're peaking a ridge. You really don't want to move from those comfortable spots until you're sure it's okay and the coast is clear. I had two heavy tanks behind me. Now I only have one because the other heavy tank is elected to drive off into the middle of the map. He's going to be dead here any second. So now I'm down to just one tank, which ends up being a M103. I've spotted three tanks. They're all heavy tanks, a Carnivon, a Conqueror, and there's an E75 down there in the ditch too. And that's what we know of. It's completely possible that half their team has gone down this way. So for me to go past this hill would be really overly aggressive and probably overextending. I just got lit by the Conqueror, I think. He's advancing. And I have really decided that I don't want any more of this. The tank destroyers are sitting back here. They're not going to help us at all unless we're dead. Basically, they're in firing position to get anything if we're overwhelmed. But they seem pretty content on watching us die before they advance. Or they're not going to advance. I see that the M103 is not coming with me. I thought we were both just kind of leave and fall back. This is the secondary position that I can fall back to. This is a much safer position, yet I'm still peaking a ridge. Note that I'm still using my gun depression, still peaking a ridge. That looks like it really should have penned. That's pretty disappointing, but thanks to this great rate of fire, I'll be shooting again. I trade a shot with the Conqueror. It's not really the idea. He penned my turret somehow. I put a second one into him. He's gonna miss here and hit the hill. Conqueror has a great gun, is quite accurate for a heavy tank, but I'm only giving him a little bit of target to shoot at. My turret is just peeking this ridge, which is exactly what you want to do with this tank. You want to have locations in the map where you can peek a ridge. Use your gun depression, only show the slightest bit of your turret. Alright, this Waffle decides now it's time for him to get in the game. He's fully loaded. He serves as more of a distraction than anything. But the M103 and me alone was not a good scene. Now with a fully loaded Waffle coming in, totally changes the game on this edge of the map. By now we kind of know what's over here. So now I'm going after the Carnivon. I probably didn't need to jump all the way up there, and I went over the ridge. He actually bounces off my turret, so I want to let you know that was a bounce. So this tank does get bounces. There's an E5 pops up out of nowhere. He wasn't there a second ago. I was trying to get one more shot on the Conqueror, or the Carnivon, trying to get the Carnivon out of here. So I fall back behind this hill. I'm going to go right back to gun depression and peeking this ridge. Really would have liked to pen that. The E75's lower plate is just unbelievable sometimes. Here I managed to track and do damage to the E5. He's trying to fall back behind the hill. Look at the peeking that I'm doing here. The gun depression. I'm just peeking over. I only am able to track him there. I track him again. I think I bounced another shot, actually. Pretty sure I did. E5 is taken out. Now we got this M103. M103, not too intimidating when they're hull down. If they're turning their turret face even slightly, you can hit their cheeks. Yeah, not too concerned with him. I'm trying to stay here where I'm safe. I look around. I think the M103 is kind of back down, and I see a really good flanking opportunity. So I'm not going to be putting my tank in the best situation because I'm on flat ground here. But I am fast and maneuverable enough that I can definitely put some jukes on an E75. I'm trying to help out my teammate. Now the M103 shows up behind me again. Apparently he saw what was going on. He's going to try and help out his E75 here. I've decided to commit to destroying this E75, who is trying to kill our Waffle. M103 is getting free shots at me from behind. I take a lot of shots there. I wish I didn't. Now I'm trying to get back to a ridge where I can use the strengths of my tank on this M103. I've fired a lot of heat here. I think at this point I was kind of thinking the game was over and I was just trying to get some pens and I was worried about bouncing, especially because I was getting low on health. I really learned a lesson in this game. I should definitely be conserving my heat shells just because you never know. I take a shot from, I think, the T10 on the other side of the map. Unfortunately, I was only able to track the M103 with the last shot, I think. So here we got a situation where there's an M103 and a Waffle on my team, and we have a Jag Tiger back at base. We don't really know where their tanks are, but there's definitely more tanks on their team than are on mine. I like to go back to base to help the Jag Tiger. I would have thought the Waffle would have been down for that too, and we could have just done like an Alamo thing back at the base. He could be reloading, but he might be reloaded by now. I don't know. Maybe he's fully loaded and he's just going to try and cap or kill whatever comes to cap. Either way, he does a terrible job at whatever he decided to do, because both him and the M103 go to cap. I go back to base. We have a full health Jag Tiger back here, so we got a good chance of putting up a fight and not getting capped out. If anything else, you know, I mean, at least it's going to lead to some more damage for me to come back here and try and fight this end of the map. Yeah, the M103 and the Waffle lasted like 2 seconds on cap, which is why I didn't want to go there. Alright, now I'm taking care of the Jag Tiger's attackers. He's still really healthy. If nothing else, like I said, I think we're going to make this an interesting end of the game. It doesn't look good. There's 5 tanks on their side. I'm a one-shot. And I have a healthy Jag Tiger. I'm going to use him as spotter. That's what I have to do. He's got the health. So I'm just going to hang back and try and stop anybody from overwhelming him. He takes out the Oho there that I left on a one-shot. But this is key. I mean, this is one of those things where, like, you know, I'm going to do the best I can with the health pool that I have. I'm a one-shot. I can't be caught in the middle of the field. I can't be the first thing they see. I have to be behind the scenes, and especially with this vision obscured map, that's a completely realistic possibility here that the Jag Tiger spots them, I shoot them, and I'm undetected for a good portion of whatever battle is about to go down. I like to move a little bit forward here as long as I keep my gun depression working. I have all that view range as we talked about in the beginning. I have pretty much both skills and coded optics. That with my camo rating, that really should have been a pen. The E75 should be dead, and for all I know, he just penned our Jag Tiger. I don't understand how that one pens, but the shot before didn't pen. That's unbelievable. Okay, so we're helping the Jag Tiger out. We got to keep the Jag Tiger alive. But as I said, I'm trying to use my spotting ability. I'm pretty sure I'm a better spotter than the Jag Tiger is at this point. So that's why I've taken more of a forward location. But I definitely want to make sure that he is their first target, because he can take a couple shots. So now we have almost a full healthy 100. I'm going to go ahead and guess that the Waffle pretty much bounced his entire clip off the E100. As I said, with the vision obscured map, here I am shooting undetected at these targets from two grid squares away, and they can't even see me, and I'm just kind of farming them. But they're really focused on the Jag Tiger. Obviously, it's the only thing that's spotted. He's taking hits. He just got hit by the E100, I think. I want to keep this ridge in case I get a shot sent back to me. I'm thinking I can protect this Jag Tiger, but the KV-4 comes over. For all I know, he may have shot him with HE. Really would like to have some heat shells left. That's definitely where this that lesson pays off. That was a nice little pen. That was lucky. If I had heat right now, I could go through his turret. But instead, I have to try and get like a track and damage shot. Maybe go through his tracking wheel and hopefully pen him. I didn't get to do that, so I have elected to pull back. I make a huge mistake here. I really thought those 3 tanks were going to chase me and work together as a group and kill me. I didn't think they would go on cap because, for all they know, I could have stayed there and just peeked that ridge all day and just destroyed every one of them on cap. But instead what they do is I think they peek over that hill, they see that I'm not there, and they decide to cap because they're not going to chase me around the map. And that's too bad. I mean, I had a great game, but I could have had an even better game if I would have gone for it and seen if I could have eliminated their whole team. I mean, all their tanks were one-shots, but then again, so am I. I was a little afraid of just getting that 3-on-1 put on me. So I went over here, and then by the time I realized that they were capping, all 3 of them get on cap immediately, and they cap with it less than 30 seconds. I can't even get back to cap in time. So, that's the end. Alright, here we have your second gameplay video. This one's on Fjords. This gameplay doesn't really have a lot of good ridge work. This map has a few ridges in the middle, but I don't think there's a lot of peaking ridges on this one. This map's going to show off more of the maneuverability, a little bit of the flanking ability, but definitely the rate of fire and what it allows you to do. This is definitely a tank you're going to want to take in the middle or the northern section of this map. I pretty much with all the mediums, I generally from this spawn will go to the same position every time. It's this is just a map positioning. That's all I'm showing you at the beginning of this game. But going to E5, which is a great little spot because it can it overlooks the top portion of that little pond. Which, if any tanks from their spawn are trying to go to that southern tip at J5, J4 area, if they're lazy and they don't go through the town properly, they get spotted and then they get shot at right over here. It amazes me that people have not learned not to take the shortcut here. This Lycan kind of Sua Scouts up there. Actually, it's a Sua Scout. That's all it is. He Sua Scouts up there. Lights the tanks, so we kind of know, what's heading what direction. Most of them are going middle map, but this Motherland, who would have been spotted anyway, is doing exactly what I was just saying. He's taking a shortcut. He's going right through the city, and now he's lit. I shoot and track him at the same time, and I'm not gonna let him go. He's confused as to what happened. Here I'm shooting him and putting in the back tracking wheel. I can't stress enough how much tracking is important in this game, especially with this tank, because you can just kind of he's perma-tracked. There's nothing he can do. He finally decides to untrack himself using his repair kit, and it's too late by then. The damage is done. I've got him. When you're using that spot on the map, be careful, because artillery can definitely hit here. So you want to be careful. With that being said, I mean this gameplay will show you how viable this spot is. Even though personally, when I'm on the other spawn, I don't go where these tanks are going. I stick more towards the water where I can't be lit as easily. But now we have tanks down there who are also spotting these tanks as they approach. So every one of these tanks is getting lit, and I have side shots on all of them. Unfortunately, I missed the tracking shot on the T-95. That would have been really nice. But someone else tracks the E-75, which is great. I'm going to try and keep him tracked. I'm missing his tracking wheel, apparently. I'm a little too inside of the tank. Someone over there sets the Centurion 7-1 on fire. He's done. So it looks like a couple of those tanks, the T-95, the E-75, they got to the southern tip. I try and shoot through the houses. It's a really difficult shot, and I can't hit the KV-4. But don't worry, the KV-4, who's been lit this entire time, and doesn't seem to see what has happened to the guys in front of him, and he's going to advance as well. And by the time he realizes that somebody's up here shooting at them, it's too late. Alright, so I've definitely taken the most advantage I can out of this position right here. It's time to move on. The middle of the map is kind of scary. There's some tanks there. Our northern force, I don't think has met any resistance, and now they are pushing down the 9-0 line. Probably would have been better if they would have come back to the middle side of the map, but instead they're going to push down the 9-0 line. And I've elected, instead of trying to work this corner, this isn't really the tank for that. I've decided to flank the tanks that are in the middle of the map. Notice how slowly I went down that portion of map there. If you want to come down from where I was shooting earlier, you have to be very careful, because the right side is smoother, and the left side is actually a very steep drop-off. If you are not careful, you will damage your tank and take incredible amounts of fall damage, especially if you're going fast. Little Leopard PTA here, just camping out behind this house. Probably hasn't helped his team one bit the whole game. I actually bounced a shot from him. He's got the small gun. People, if they auto-lock this STB-1, you'll hit the turret face sometimes. Now that hurts. That hurts. That's artillery hitting me for probably half of what I had for health at the time. And then another unfortunate event's going to come up here. If you look at my map, there's really nothing right now. It looks like a desert. There's no tanks here whatsoever. I just popped up to my right. I didn't even see it. E-75 was behind this rock the whole time. So now we have a full health E-75 and a full health IS-4, and I'm a one-shot. Alright, now I ran into the track of the E-75, so he's tracked. He just missed, which was huge. He's probably not taking this very seriously, but he better, because artillery just gave me a hand. Much like their artillery hit me, my artillery hit him. But this is the best part of the video by far. So we have an IS-4 that's virtually full health, and I have 270 hit points, which is totally a one-shot for him. I'm using the dead tank. I'm going to do a little bit of ring around the rosy here with him. But I'm pretty sure I'm a dead man, so I'm just doing the best I can here. He's going to get he gets frustrated, and he shoots. And he probably thinks that there's no way this isn't going to go in his favor. So he gives away that shot, but he's like, oh, I'll get him eventually. He's just a one-shot. Well, we'll see about that. His turret moves really slowly, and he's tracked, thanks to artillery. So I'm just going to kind of dance around him like I was a little light tank. I'm kind of like a bulldog to him at this point. He makes a mistake there, and he pulls forward, giving me a little bit of room to get away. And here, I'm going to take a chance at the last second, pull forward so that I shoot perpendicular into his tank. And, I mean, I had nothing to lose there. It was a one-shot the whole time, so I went for it completely. And, basically, that was just, you watched a 2-on-1, a full health E-75, and a full health IS-4, or virtually full health, take on a one-shot STB-1, and the STB-1 is still alive. I got a little help from artillery, but honestly, they got a little help from artillery as well. So I think that's even Steven right there. Yeah, I remember when that happened, I even finished that little encounter and said, I'm definitely keeping this video. That was awesome. I'm sure the artillery, those two guys, and I'm sure the artillery on my team was sitting there going, did that just happen? Did that really just happen? So, that's a very good game in the STB-1. like I said, showing off more of what you can do with that maneuverability and that rate of fire. And here we have one of my favorite game chat jerkweeds. Unfortunately, I have to wait till this screen's done before I can mute this guy. Faulty voice box. Yeah, you're gonna get muted. Congratulations, you get muted every time. I don't know why he's not muted right now. People like that. I don't know. Alright, we have a game on Heilbronn. It's a good map for this tank. Basically, unless you go into the city, you're working ridges. Lots of hills, lots of ridges, lots of opportunities to use what the tank's strongest at, which is ridge work. I've been using this hill up here pretty much every time from this spawn. If I'm playing a medium, I'm almost always going over here. There's just, you know, you become to the point in the games where you get certain bushes that are your favorite. I call them power bushes. This is a power bush right here. This bush is in a perfect location. Okay, the T-71 was right there, but he's going to pay for that. Otherwise, I easily could sit in this bush undetected, and I will be in a minute. I put one more into the T-71. He hits me with his little pea shooter. There's no artillery, so I can be a little bit more reckless as far as being on top of this hill. All I have to do is pull back. I don't have to go dance around and try and dodge artillery shells. T-71 gets away, and I'm just going to be peeking this ridge. I have 10 degrees of gun depression. I can shoot down from here. With my maxed out view range, I'm spotting any of their team that comes down the 4 or 5 line, and surprisingly, a good amount of them do come down the 4 or 5 line. Usually that spawn, they pretty much stick to the city and the 9-0 line. But, great. So now I'm going to use these really well-placed bushes to spot and then fire on these targets. Got an E4, a Jagdpanzer E100, a Centurion 1. I track and do damage on the E4. There's no artillery in the game, so there's nobody to hit him for me. My team really isn't too concerned with this hill. Only the really advanced players I notice seem to play this hill, it seems like. This Centurion 1 is just kind of standing out in the middle. And this is probably why that spawn doesn't play the 4, 5, 6 line too much. The way they've done it here especially is really, they're at a huge disadvantage. I'm on a hill, peeking a ridge, spotting and firing on them, and there's really nothing they can do about it. The E4 recognizes this. He's bugging out of there. I wish I would have hit him instead of Centurion 1. I probably could have beaten him up pretty good on his exit strategy, but I didn't, and instead the Centurion 1 is going to die. He sees the E4 take off and get out of there, so he thinks, I want to do the same thing. I want to get out of here too. Well, this is Centurion 1 and not so lucky. The E4 gets away. I outspot the RU-251, so that's how powerful that bush is. The M103 next to me is lit, so they're shooting him. He does not have the camo value, nor is he using the power bushes correctly. This Jagdpanzer E100 is also going to try the same exit strategy. He's trying to get out of there. I'm lit. I should probably pull back, but there's really nothing seems to be firing back at me. So until I know otherwise, I'm just going to assume that nobody's really shooting at me. I'm just going to farm this JPE while he makes his exit. That should be a pen. I have no idea why that doesn't pen. This E75 is pretty much hull down behind something. I'm not even using the bush anymore. I'm only lit when I fire anyway. Oh, hello M103. Good day, sir. These annoying little lichens. This guy runs into the bridge. He's gonna pay for that. Unfortunately, I still had heat loaded because I was gonna fire some heat at the JPE that I bounced for no good reason. Still working this ridge here. At some point I'm going to have to advance. But this JPE is just leaving enough of the back of his tank out. And he gets hit, and actually he responds by backing up, which is the worst thing he can do there. I really needed to jump on the C-75 at this point, and I wait a little too long. And I probably missed out on some damage. So, now I've recognized that, you know, clearly we're going to win this game, and it's kind of a mop-up scenario. You can be much more aggressive at this point. You know, there's very few tanks on their team. That's a mouse, but watch this shot. Both myself and the M103 shoot the mouse at his little front door window. He shoots me back. Not a good trade for my tank, but I just, out of frustration, kind of see if I can hit some miracle shot on the mouse at range while moving. I don't know, I almost did it for the lulz there, I think. But I'm actually going to get one more pen in, mainly because he turns his turret to go after this T-49. But just showing off the fact that, yeah, it's .36 accuracy, yeah, the gun's not the best, but you could still make it work. There was a lot of sniping in this game, so as much as I kind of make fun of the gun on the STB-1, I have to say that I can make it work most of the time. And it's not the best sniping of all time, but it's still kind of sniper. Alright, well, I hope you guys appreciated the videos. I'll be sure to put out some more. Next line is the American mediums. And thanks for watching.